Welcome to the Get Inspired with Gerd show, brought to you by Gerd's Handel. Join us each week to be inspired, informed and uplifted with some of the most inspirational and motivational guests from around the world. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay inspired.
Hello and welcome to another show of Get Inspired with Gerds. I'm your host and today I have a stunning inspirational guest with me. She's one of the most inspirational, motivational speakers out there, and what she's doing is just unbelievable. What this lady has been through is just shocking itself, and how she overcame it is just absolutely inspirational. She's going to teach you how to overcome these situations, but she's gone through physical, emotional and sexual abuse. She was also homeless at the age of 16 and now uses her story to teach and educate students across London that to dig deep within themselves and harness their inner greatness. Haleema, welcome to my show and thank you for joining me.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Haleema, you have so much to teach and it all stems from your past. Can you tell the listeners, what have you been through starting with your childhood?
Well, I was born in into an Arab Muslim family, and I was born into a household that was quite broken at the time. So I endured a lot of physical abuse and emotional abuse. At the time, my home life was quite all over the place at the time. So, but I mean, I don't know how to summarize my childhood in a few moments. But from the time I was about 5 to about 7, I lived with my mum and dad, and they were together at the time. So we traveled. I was about 8 years old with my father, and that's when they separated. So within those times, my home life was a wreck. I left school quite often. I missed a lot of school, and when I did go in, there was always curiosity about the bruises and the cut that I had.
Oh no!
So my dad at that time, pretty much, he trained me pretty well to be able to lie and go in and say I hurt myself or I fell, because it was all over the place. There was no way.
Wow.
Life at the time.
Wow. So, you said that you travelled. Where did you go?
I went to Syria, Damascus. That was my first stop with my dad, and that's where he remarried at the time.
Okay.
And then from there, we travelled to Egypt and back, and then back and forth from England and onwards for a few years until I was about 10 years old.
Wow. That must have been a very interesting yet confusing journey for you at such a young age.
For a young person, sometimes some things just, they go over your head. But it felt like a film, like a movie. It was just so surreal. It was confusing, especially missing out on school, not knowing where I was going to be. I didn't see my dad. As soon as we travelled and we went to another country, I was given to another family to stay with.
What?
It was quite difficult. It was two worlds colliding together. But it did help me understand how to live and communicate with other people. Definitely did help me in that sense.
And so, when did the physical and the emotional abuse start?
Definitely around 5 years old. That's as far as I can remember.
Gosh.
It was really bad. I definitely used to have blackouts. It was pretty severe. My mom was always high on something at that time, and it was very difficult for me to understand. I didn't understand it right away as a child. But as I grew up, I started to remember that, hey, Mom always had a bottle here, or something there to get high on, and when she was sober, she wasn't a very nice person at all. But when she was on something, she was actually quite nice. Many years later, I did realise and find out that my mom did suffer from a lot of mental health issues, but my father couldn't understand it, so it was a very unhealthy relationship, and so as children, it suffered because of that.
Okay, so would you say that she had a lot of troubles growing up herself within her family?
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely now understand why many people end up hurting others or doing many things that seem of them as well. And I don't know much about my mother, but I do know that she never went to school, so she was very uneducated. And so her world was limited. She did suffer a lot of abuse. But I never got to sit down with her and discuss that initially. But my siblings do tell me when she does open up to them.
It's interesting you say that, because what I've come to realise is that parents don't realise what we learn at the age of 0 to 13 is what we think is normal. So if it's physical, it's emotional, or it's sexual abuse, that becomes your world. And as a child, you don't know anything better. So I can imagine yourself growing up thinking, oh, this is normal, this is my life. But actually, how old were you when you came to realise that your world wasn't normal?
Oh, I think that was about probably 11, 12. It wasn't earlier than that. Before that, I thought everything was normal. My reality was just so abnormal. But that's how I thought every family functioned, And when my mum reacted sometimes really badly, I just thought that's just the way it is. She did show love and affection. As a child, you immediately forgive your parent, That's what you look for. You initially look for love and attention, and so you forgive immediately. You immediately forget and forgive.
Yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from. It's a difficult one within the ethnic minority background, because I find that a lot of young people are damaged, and it's the reason why it is because of their parents, because their parents have a lot of issues themselves that their parents have led them to have as well. So if they're not dealing with their issues, they inflict them onto their children. And
100% agree with that.
And the sad thing is, it needs to stop. Someone needs to cut the brake and say, you know what? It's okay what you've gone through, but you can change your life around. And so then the next generation doesn't have to go through what I went through. But it's going to take a long time for that to change, and I can see that within the community. But so obviously your mom started, and what about on your dad's side? Was there any kind of?
No, my father was a wonderful, wonderful man and father. I mean, he always showed love. He never showed anything less than that. Even if he raised his voice, I was such a daddy's girl that I would cry straight away, if he tried to raise his voice. So he was really, really good in that sense. He was an orphan by the age of 10, and so he wanted a big family, and he'd absolutely disagreed with the way my mom thought that that's the way you discipline your children or so on. And so that caused a lot of problems. My abuse continued when my father remarried my stepmom. She was the one that doubled, tripled, quadrupled it, you name it, in that sense.
Wow. So once you realised that this wasn't right, what did you do? Or did you do anything at that time?
No, I couldn't. You're trapped emotionally. You're full of fear. And fear is the number one killer in a sense, spiritually, emotionally. I grew up with so much fear. You can imagine I used to tremble and shake whenever something went wrong. There was always a lot of fights in the house, police,
Wow.
There would be a lot of mess. And so I just learned to be able to switch between two worlds. I almost developed at that time an alter ego from a very young age, because that was the way I had to cope. That was my coping mechanism. So,
would you say that obviously at home you're quite a quiet girl, but in school were you pretty loud because you were trying to deal with the issues that were happening at home?
Oh yeah, my school reports always read she taught talks a lot, chats a lot, stuff like that, because I was very hyperactive. People used to call me, believe it or not, when I was about year 7, year 8, I had my friends say, oh, here's hyena, because all I did was laugh like a hyena, laugh and crack jokes. My school was my playground, So I was just
very, very hyperactive. I definitely released everything until the 3 o'clock bell went.
Wow. No, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's funny you say that, because when I was in school, I remember there used to be a lot of loud kids, and I remember thinking, there must be something not right at home. There must be, surely there's a reason behind why they're behaving the way they do. And it's true. When I look now back at my kind of age, a lot of the young girls and the guys, they had problems in their families, but it was their way of masking the situation and dealing with it.
Absolutely. I think it's just about trying to fit in, trying to release some sort of, things, and trying to have fun, because knowing that when that 3 o'clock bell goes, there will be there will be problems, and now when I do speak and teach, I always focus on the children or the young people that I see who react when I'm there to speak with them. The ones, normally the jokers of the class or the hyperactive ones, would immediately calm down and listen and really focus, because it, really they relate to it. And I think a lot of people, just as you said, there's a lot of people that I remember as well were just like the way I was, or even worse. But it does make sense. It's just I think it was about attention and just finding some sort of way to express yourself when you couldn't express yourself at home or anywhere else.
Yeah, I guess it was that kind of way of releasing the frustrations that were happening at home, and just feeling like they belonged somewhere at the time, because obviously at home they didn't feel like that sense of belonging. It absolutely makes sense. So, you were homeless at the age of 16. So what happened?
At that time, I had a choice. I had a choice either to stay in the abuse that I was enduring, or to leave. And at that time, I was extremely suicidal. I really, really was deciding whether to end my life or leave. And my choice was to leave. But I had a lot of faith that somehow, some way, I was going to be okay. But anything at that time was better, much better than what I was experiencing. I couldn't handle it, because I realized that I broke down completely, and at that point, when you realize that you're so close to do something, that extreme, then you're not fearful of anything else. And by that time, I've seen so much, experienced so much pain, that nothing scared me, and I was so naive. So I was afraid of the outside world. I mean, I remember the only thing I knew how to get a bus was from home to school, from school to home, and that's all I knew.
Wow.
You see, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Wow.
It really was. It was the best thing I've ever decided to do. And it was attacking that fear of, what, I can't stay somewhere just because it's safe somewhat. Just because I have a roof over my home at that point was worse than the streets. That's how it felt.
So what did you do? So you obviously left home, and did you have a support network? Or
yeah, I had a support, somewhat. I had a brilliant friend at the time, and she gave me some time at her home, in a family home. I slept on the floor, I slept on the couch, but in the end I had to find my way out again. And so I was able to find myself a place and rent, and got myself a part-time job. So things looked better, but I was extremely depressed still, because the world itself I had to face now, and I haven't healed yet, So it's very, very difficult for me. It was like a dog-eat-dog world for me. I couldn't believe it. For me, I thought everyone was nice, everyone was kind, Outside, my naivety was just beyond. And so it was a big shock, a big awakening.
It's interesting what you're saying. I totally relate. I remember the first time I got a part-time job, and I thought, yeah, everybody will be nice.
Yeah.
No, it was the opposite. It taught me the biggest lesson of my life. It taught me
isn't it?
So much, and that actually people are not that nice in the outside world, that they will actually insult you, they will hurt you, they will play games, and you have to be very quickly have your head screwed on at an early age to realize that you have to look after number one. Because it's a very, you don't get me wrong, you will get a lot of nice people out there, but it's very rare when you do find them. Majority, they just don't care, do they, to be honest?
No. And when you're very, very, kind-hearted or soft, people will try and push you and see how far you bend. And that was one of the first lessons.
Yeah, I totally relate. Been there. But I guess that's what makes us who we are today. Because if we hadn't gone through that, we wouldn't be the strong people we are, my dear.
100% agree with that. Absolutely.
So, I want to ask you a question. What's your definition of inner greatness?
Inner greatness is being absolutely unafraid to show yourself, to emphasize on your greatest qualities, because most of the time we are afraid. Many people are afraid of being ridiculed, even though we have skills and talents, we're still afraid to show them and say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, regardless of what other people's opinions are. Inner greatness is expressed in yourself and being unafraid.
Very powerful. Very powerful. So, my dear, you're a motivational speaker, and from what I know is that you're going out to schools and you're educating young people to kind of find that inner greatness. So how are you doing that?
How am I doing?
How are you teaching them to find their inner greatness?
Well, first of all, by expressing my story. That way I hope that I can catch their attention. Most of the time it works out very, very well. And to work through the tactics that I've used personally, to get really personal and connect with them and just be real. Because young people, they can feed off your energy and they can see when someone's being pretentious or not. And so when you're speaking from the heart and expressing yourself and being absolutely real, that's when you're able to really connect and encourage them to open up.
So true. I feel, because the listeners probably don't know, I actually teach over the summer to teach young people how to produce films with a charity. Yes. And when I tell them my story, they get so emotional. It's because a lot of people within their world are not being true to them. And I think people don't realise how powerful stories are, because that is... Without stories, we can't help and grow one another, and at that age they need that help, and if someone can give them the inspiration or the motivation to do better in their life, that is the perfect timing to do it. Exactly.
Tell them the reality of things, show them things and speak to them, just like movies, just like the way a film would do. Films, we get touched by films, especially true stories, and young people are able to visualize and imagine. So when you're able to tell your story so effectively to get their imagination going and in return their emotional connection, you can't lose with that, you can't.
No, it's so true. I just look back at my age, and I'm sure when you look back at your age and you see that if somebody had come up to you and given you what you're telling them, that they would have actually changed their lives a lot earlier.
Oh, yes. I always think that if during my GCSEs or just before that, if I had a motivational speaker come to the school and not just entertain and go on about, things they think we're interested in, but really speak to us, that would have completely helped me so much. And that's what encourages me now, because I know that there's young people out there who really, really need it. That one word that might just open their hearts and make them see that there is help, because I didn't think that anyone could help me. And in return, I didn't open up to anyone. I didn't. It took me a long time. I was very afraid, Wow.
So what kind of response have you received from the young people when you've done your speeches?
Oh my goodness. It melts my heart. Today I went to a school, just today, Greg City Academy, and unbelievable. They were year 10. I did 2 sessions there, And the first session, I got a standing ovation and the tears in my eyes. I tried to compose myself, but they really, and a young boy came across the room in front of his whole class to give me a hug. And that to me spoke 1,000 million things, It meant so much to me. And most of the time, I do get young men and young women who come after to thank me and tell me what they thought. They don't have to, but I really appreciate it. So far, I feel very, very blessed and very, very grateful.
Oh, wow. You've just literally filled my eyes with tears.
Don't get me started.
Thanks, Haleema. Oh, bless. No, it's beautiful hearing it's beautiful hearing the strength and the clarity in your voice that you know that it's okay, that you can change your life around and that there is hope for them. And coming from somebody that works with young people, I totally relate, because it's so powerful. And if people taught this at such a young age, we wouldn't have these problems within society. They would learn their own worth at an early age, and they wouldn't take crap from anybody.
Exactly.
Wow, my tears. So,
oh, bless your heart.
Oh, bless you as well, my dear. That's just really, really touched me. With me also having goosebumps on my arm, that just shows how powerful your story is. So you need to keep sharing that with everyone, because people need to hear what you're saying, because it's inspirational. The fact that you've been able to change your life around at such an early age, that's very remarkable.
Yes. Oh.
Bless you. So, obviously, after what you've gone through, when did you realise that you could be a motivational speaker, really?
When I was in sixth form and I was studying my A-levels, we had this interesting woman who came in to take over the sixth form as the head of year. And at that time, we thought, this woman must be insane. She's trying to conquer, she's coming in, she's throwing people out, left, right, and center. She even tried to throw me out.
Oh, wow.
So for a few, it was over nothing. It was just, your GCSE points are not matching. But I said to her one day, but I'm studying my subjects now. Right now, there's no point. I'm in my second year, was it? And I just thought, wow, this woman is just barbaric. But later on, I realized she is incredibly powerful and one of the people who have influenced me. And I actually went back to the school just last year to let her know that she was one of the people who pushed me out of my comfort zone, because one day she saw me lazing about in the common room, and I was free. It was on a Wednesday, and she said to me, "Hey, you, I've got a assembly, and I haven't prepared anything for it yet, but I'm giving you 1 hour to prepare a presentation to, motivate the year 9. I said, okay, because I thought, okay, if I don't do that, she's going to throw me out. So I thought, okay, this will be great for university. This is going to be amazing practice for me to do my presentations in front of a large audience and so on. Oh my, by the end of that 1 hour, I asked a class friend of mine, to come and join me and help me to do this. I was very nervous. But when I realized, we went to the assembly hall and there was this whole year 9 teachers and the head teacher. So by then my legs were shaking, but it went so well. I had a teacher ask me to actually give him the presentation for the day to use, and he would pay me for that.
Oh, wow.
So it was amazing feedback. The head teacher shook my hand and told me, well done. The other teachers were really proud. And so after that, I went on to uni. Mm-hmm. I mean, I spoke to 2 other years in the school, so that went really, really well. But when I went to university, I kept obsessing over it, I kept obsessing, and I thought, okay, if I could do that, no, I could do a lot more, I could do a lot more. And so it stemmed from that.
Wow, that's That's amazing. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
Just at a young age, you just knew that you wanted to be a motivational speaker. Wow, wow.
No, absolutely. I was
Wow.
so sure about it. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just knew I needed to do it.
Wow. Wow, it's unbelievable. So what did you do after that? Like, so obviously at that age you realised, I want to be a motivational speaker. What did you do next?
No, I just went on to university. I passed all that I needed to pass, and my first choice was Anglia Ruskin and Cambridge for philosophy. And for me, that was the end of everything. I thought, wow, I achieved everything. That's it. This is it. Because during that time when I was homeless at 16, that was my dream, was to get to university.
Oh.
I said to myself, if I can get to university, I've made it as a normal person. That's what I used to say to myself. I will be normal. I'll be just like everyone else. I won't look like I even suffered in life.
Oh.
But when I made it, surprisingly, it wasn't good enough. I wasn't satisfied. I was in the middle of Cambridge studying philosophy, and I was not satisfied yet. But amazing experience. And during that time, I worked as a TA. And that only happened because I volunteered whilst I was sixth form. So again, I spent a lot of time doing the things that my friends didn't do in order for me to have the things that men don't have during uni. So I had a really, really good job as well. I would run into my seminars coming from another school down the road. So it was really, really good for me. It was the beginning of me believing that anything is possible. So I had to prove to myself, getting to uni first was one of the biggest things. And so when I did, my goals just kept growing from there.
It's amazing. You know what? We've all been rewired the same to think that if we go to university, we're going to have an amazing life. Everything will make sense. And actually, for majority of people, it doesn't make sense. They want something more. They want something better to strive for.
Yeah.
And you were born to be a motivational speaker. I can hear it within your voice.
Thank you very much. I do feel that I definitely feel that it is my calling. The reactions, sometimes we don't see ourselves in a way. We forget. I always get very, very nervous before getting up to speak till this very day, all the time. Because at that moment, you forget. But as soon as you're up there and you're passionate and you're speaking from your heart, it goes smoothly.
Thank you. Yeah, it's okay. It's interesting because a lot of motivational speakers, they all feel the same. Even the top ones like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, they all say that they get scared before they go on stage, but that's because it's their purpose. And that's what it is. And you're passionate about it. And that's why you get those kind of knotted feelings in your stomach. So, yeah, you're on the right path, my dear. Yeah. You're on the right path.
You know what I think it is? I think it's the perfectionist in us. You want to be great. And it's such a good thing. I mean, if we didn't get those feelings, we would be absolutely... Our ego would be beyond belief. So I'm very grateful that I do still get very, very nervous. And I think I will do for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. It'll always be there, my dear. It'll always be there because you know that what you're doing is about to change people's lives. And that itself would make anybody nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even with me still today, anything that I do, I still get nervous with anything that I love. And it's just like, but I've spoken to lots of people. Why am I feeling this way? It's because I'm passionate about it. And that's what you are. You're passionate about speaking. You're passionate about changing people's lives.
You're right.
So how, after everything that you've gone through, how are you full of so much love? Where does that come from?
There's many times where I've asked myself the same thing. But I truly believe it is an intention. It really is an intention because I intend, out of all the pain that I've experienced, the hatred towards me, I refuse. I refuse to live in a world where there's no love. Why? Why should I succumb to such hatred? Why should I be? Because many people would always assume that if you've been through quite a bit, you'd be, a horrible person. Or believe me, I've got a very, very harsh side to myself, like a very feisty side, but I've got to, that's the way to protect myself when it comes to facing certain type of people. But in the meantime, my heart is very, very pure because I truly just want peace. That's all I want, and I'm very, very grateful that I'm able to be this way, because if I wasn't, I would have destroyed myself. I would have succumbed to drugs. I would have succumbed to many, many, many things if I didn't have that love within me. And I've got to thank my father for that. My father, the orphan, he was the one that showed me how to love from very young. Because if he wasn't there to show me love, I think it would have been difficult for me to show love. Because he showed me love so much, in many, many, many ways, that that now I'm able to show love. So I'm very, very grateful for my father. He's definitely a great example of a man in that sense.
Oh, bless. Oh, so sweet. Oh, I'm sure he's absolutely proud of what you're doing and how you're helping others and raising awareness about everything that you're doing.
Sorry, I didn't hear you last.
I was just saying how he must be really, really proud of you for what you're doing and how you're changing lives.
Oh, absolutely. I really do hope. I mean, I've always aimed to, make my father proud, but I know deep down he always is. I guess he just, like any man, they just want their daughter to be safe. They just want her to be safe, and so, yeah.
Yeah, it's that father love. They want to protect you no matter what, and they want no badness to happen to you, but they have to realize that you have to face the world yourself sometimes.
Exactly, isn't it?
Yeah, I understand. So we are coming towards the end of the show, my dear. So what are you the most grateful for in your life?
I'm grateful for the people who have shown me a lot of pain. I'm not gonna lie. I'm grateful for the people, not only the people who've shown me a lot of love, but the people who've toughened me up. If it wasn't for them, for my abusers, if it wasn't for them, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So I'm grateful for my trials. I'm grateful for all of that I've experienced. I'm just grateful to be alive, to be honest. It's such a good feeling to be here and know that I'm here for a purpose. Everyone's here for a purpose. And I want people to understand that you're not here for no reason. And it doesn't have to be, something movie-like, because your purpose could be very, very simple. Your purpose could be, your family or your friends. It could be anything. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the small circle that I have. I'm just grateful to be alive, honestly, for all that I've experienced. Yeah, I'm grateful to be in good health. Good health, yeah.
Wow. I just love it. I love you and what you're doing. I just love it because it's just a lot of people would have just said, you know what, I've been hurt, that's it, I'm gonna cut myself up, and like I'm not gonna let anyone close to me, I'm not gonna let anyone. But you've kind of said, you know what, it's fine. The situations I have in my life, they made me stronger, and thank you for that, because actually if you didn't put me through that, I wouldn't be doing my purpose, and that's just beautiful to hear.
No, thank you so much. And the way, I mean, if we weren't faced with these type of people, we would never know what people are like. People are not evil for no reason. You see, they're hurting themselves. They have pain within them already, and they just inflict it on other people.
So true. And I think a lot of people don't realise that if their parents are saying things to them that are negative or putting them down, it's not a direct reflection of them, it's a direct reflection of themselves. Their parents are going through stuff that might stem from their childhood, and actually they need to understand that they are beautiful, and they don't need to tie in those feelings that their parents are saying to them. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. It's just conditioning, I mean, you can't blame your parents for being a certain way. You can't blame them 100% the whole way. They're a certain way because of their own experiences, and they believe is is right from the. It's just it's just a messed up misconception and perceptions all together.
So true. It's so true. So, my dear, what are your 5 top tips for someone who's currently going through either physical, emotional, or sexual abuse?
My 5 top tips. Number 1 is to start loving yourself, because I realized that for me to have walked out that house that day at the age of 16, to walk away from that life, it took a lot of self-love. I decided that I love myself enough to walk away, to not be afraid. Secondly, is to know that there is help. There is a lot of help out there. There is a lot of help, and do not be afraid to ask for help. For me, I had a lot of pride, so I'm speaking from personal experience. I had a lot of pride for someone very young. I didn't want to seem weak. I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me, and so I didn't really seek out for help, because of that. Thirdly, be patient. Some transitions will take a while. Some of them may take a long time, some of them may take a very short time, but be patient with yourself. Be patient. Fourthly, did I say number 3?
I think you missed that.
Thirdly, try and surround yourself with people who are ready to help you. Surround yourself with people who are positive, people who are not in circumstances as yourself. It may seem, maybe I should communicate with people in the same circumstances, but that won't help. Communicate with people who are outside of your world so that they may help you to see something differently. Because at that time I had a friend who was able to help me see the world very, very differently. Because my world to me was very closed, you see.
Wow.
And number 4, you have to put pen to paper. You're going to have to put your goals down. You're going to have to try and visualize your things. You're going to have to imagine a path for yourself. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to start thinking. You don't need to know how. Just put pen to paper. 1, 2, 3. What are your steps? What are you going to do? And you will be able to make a movement from there. And 5. This is interesting because I'm trying to find a lot of things to say at once.
Only one, my dear. You could say them. You could say the other 2 if there's any other ones as well. Why not?
Oh, so many. Regardless of what you're going through right now, you have to be very, very grateful that you are able to help yourself, or that you're alive. At that time I wasn't grateful for anything. And we get very angry, and we have a lot of self-hate. We hate everything and everyone, and that way we're not able to trust. But having gratitude, even for the very, very simple things, and it may be very, very hard, but it's gonna be tough. And for those who are going through those things right now, you're going to break down. You're going to go to the lowest of the low. But when you're at that point, there is no other way but to go up. There is no other way. And sometimes people, that's when they really try and help themselves, is when they're at the lowest point. At that point, you have nothing to lose. So understand that it's gonna take some time. You're going to break down. You're going to lose your mind. But you've got to have a purpose in there, and you've got to put yourself first. You've got to know that you come first, and that goes along with self-love and showing love to yourself.
Wow.
That's all I can say for now, to be honest.
If you could see me right now, I have goosebumps all over my arms.
You?
Yes. Wow.
Oh.
Amazing, my dear. That's just amazing. And I hope anyone who's going through any kind of abuse, please, please, please listen to what Haleema is saying. It's so important. You need to learn to love and respect yourself, because if you don't learn to love and you respect, people will hurt you, people will insult you. But when you know your own worth, you won't care what people think. You'll just stand up and you will fight for what you believe in. And it's so true what Haleema is saying, so please do take it into consideration. Haleema, who's your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration. Can it be anyone?
Anyone you want it to be.
Oh, goodness me. My biggest inspiration. You know, to be honest, it was probably, I remember at the age of 12, I had to stay during summer. I had to stay at my father's best friend's home with his wife and their kids, because my dad traveled for the summer. So me and my baby sister, we stayed over them. They were very, religious, and they were beautiful, beautiful Yemeni people. Absolute wonderful Arab family. I've never met a family who was so peaceful. And that mother, she is an absolute inspiration. I'm going to get emotional.
Oh. Wow.
She definitely taught me to be a woman.
Oh. I can feel your emotions as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what? It's people like that in your life that give you that hope to fight. That, you know what, there are going to be bad days, but things will get better.
Absolutely. And she was someone who showed me that, someone as simple, they live life so simple. She taught me how to manage and be at home and maintain yourself, and, just simple ways. And she inspired me so much, very much, and she's definitely been one of my biggest inspirations, and I do hope to see her one day again.
Oh, bless her. She sounds like an absolute stunning person.
Oh, she was like a goddess,
Oh.
in my eyes.
Oh, bless her soul. Oh, bless her. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We are literally coming towards the end, my dear. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. I just want to talk to you more.
It's funny, isn't it?
But where can my listeners find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Haleema Shariff. That's HALEEMA SHARIFF, and Facebook, the same name, Haleema Shariff. So if they need to drop me a message or say hello or anything, they can find me on there. And my email is also on there, which is Haleema_Shariff92@hotmail.com.
Perfect, my lovely. Thank you for being on the show. I'm so proud of you and what you've gone through, and just thank you for giving the listeners some information about that. It is okay that, even through the darkness, you can see the light. Because to me, you're an absolute role model in just being a survivor in so many different types of abuse, and that you've come out on the other side. So lots of love, my dear.
Thank you so much. I am so, so, so grateful and humbled and honoured. And you've been great. Thank you so much.
Aww. We have to catch up soon.
Absolutely.
Well, you take my lovely, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what an amazing interview with Haleema Shariff. Just anyone that's listening out there, just realise that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you can change your life around. It's down to you that makes the decision to make the change. So if you're going through some kind of physical, mental or emotional abuse, you can get out of that situation. The first step is to actually get out of that situation. But unfortunately, it is the end of the show, and just before I head off, don't forget that you can find me on Twitter at IamGurds. It's IamGurds, and you can also find me on Facebook at Get Inspired with Gurds Show to keep you inspired throughout the whole week. So this week, before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. When life knocks you down, you can let it define you, destroy you, or strengthen you. It's down to you to decide, because you deserve to be happy and healthy. Believe that, because you are beautiful and you are powerful. Take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Join us each week to be inspired, informed, and uplifted with some of the most inspirational and motivational guests from around the world. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay inspired.